Where am I? Who are you? Hello, Ryu. It's been a long time since I discussed with you on GT topics, man, but seriously, I decided that I wanted to give you a little bit of an update if you're watching this video. You see, I'm almost at 1,000 subscribers, and I'm going to make a GT power skill that's going to change the entire community of Dragon Ball Inverse and finally prove to everyone why GT is on par with the level of Super. And, you know, as a celebration, before that video comes out, I'm just gonna debunk you one last time for all of the god-awful Gogeta Cabba debate downplay. Dear God. It's over. One last little debunk before I finally make my beautiful, glorious, sexy GT power skill.
You were the first majorly known person that I knew throughout my entire career. And you can say all you want that, oh, it's not a debate, oh, it's not a debate. I seriously don't even care anymore. I already addressed this. But here's the thing, right? You know, what did you expect? You expected the Latino Mexicano boy to take it from a fucking unk who said that GT barely makes it past Blue Sucker Vegito. Bro, as a Mexican, I'm not letting this shit. I'm spitting back for all of my GT homies that are suffering to your stupid ass downfall.
Como el 9 de la comunidad, para finalmente destruirte.
Base Cabba versus Super Saiyan 4 Gogeta, the undisputed king of GT, who for years was considered the strongest Dragon Ball character, versus somebody who's oftentimes criminally underrated, but benefits from the absurd scaling of Dragon Ball Super, and in actuality, breaks into the levels of the gods. It's a meme that's been circulating for some time, but also an interesting conversation that I'm going to analyze and lay out for a realistic answer on who would likely win if they brawled to the finish. When it comes to GT versus Super, I feel it all comes down to how you interpret the Buhan feat.
What is bro yapping about? There are feats in GT that are better than the ones from Z with Buhan. Like, dude, this is not even the greatest feat in 90s Dragon Ball. What are you talking about?
Where he almost collapses the universe, and the Omega Shenron feat, where he's going to destroy the macrocosm with his negative energy. First off, let's talk about Cabba and his scaling, however. To begin, we actually need to understand how powerful base Goku is during the Universe 6 arc. We know that at the beginning of Battle of Gods, it's established that a suppressed Beerus is not only vastly superior to Super Saiyan 3 Goku, but Goku feels that even if he and Vegeta were to fuse into Vegito, they still wouldn't stand a chance. Then upon obtaining Super Saiyan God for the first time, Goku feels that he may be able to defeat Beerus, and states he didn't even know that power like that existed, heavily implying that even his weakest initial Super Saiyan God state surpasses a hypothetical Battle of Gods era Super Saiyan 3 Vegito in peak power, which Goku would have at least been able to consider in his statements. After this, Goku continues to grow far stronger in Super Saiyan God state.
Okay, but the issue with this point is that there's nothing within Super that quantifies how much stronger Super Saiyan God Goku got, so you're just adding irrelevant points to your video just to, you know, rub it in or something. I don't even know, bro. You're just being really irrelevant.
And is stated to have the power to wipe out the universe multiple times with the mere aftershocks of his punches. Not only would he wipe out the universe, however, it was shown and stated multiple times that the effects of the clash between Goku and Beerus would wipe out Otherworld and the Kaioshin realm as well, which are both infinite-sized universal spacetimes in their own rights, making the feat at least low multiversal in scope as a minimum for destroying multiple universe spacetime continuums. As he gains more control and power over his godly ki, Goku eventually reverts back into a Super Saiyan, and is even stronger than before, having absorbed his Super Saiyan God powers into his base form as confirmed by Beerus. Goku himself even states he doesn't feel any weaker after reverting, as well as multiple guides further confirming that he absorbed his God powers into his base form, with a final feat of destroying an energy ball in base form that was created with the combined power of a suppressed Beerus and the previously mentioned Super Saiyan Goku, flashing attacks only seconds earlier. Goku solidifies that his power in base form completely surpassed his old power that he had as a Super Saiyan God.
My brain hurts way too much to explain how God Ki works in Dragon Ball, so if you really want to know how Super Saiyan God works as a form and as a, control of power, you need to go watch my friend Historic's video. He brings a fairly decent explanation that's far greater than whatever the hell Ryu is talking about, because I guarantee you, if you, just watch Historic's video, you're just going to gain a better understanding and better context as to what happened within Dragon Ball Super and the Battle of Gods movie, etc., any single form of God Ki media.
Fast forward, and Goku trains under Whis, vastly increasing his power further leading up to the Battle of Frieza, and again, for 3 years with Vegeta in the Realm of Spirit at the time.
Okay, and we still can't quantify how much stronger they got within those 3 years. And Vegeta says himself that even if they went in the time chamber for 3 years, they still wouldn't really get that much stronger. So your point is just kind of very meaningless.
Greatly increasing his power even further again leading up to the Universe 6 tournament, where he and Vegeta meet Cabba for the first time. We know that Cabba is stated multiple times to be comparable to base Vegeta while in base form himself, and he fights on equal footing with him.
This is a huge common misconception. Cabba and Vegeta are not equal footing in base, because as you can see on screen, Vegeta literally kicks Cabba once and he's already out of breath, about to lose the fight, he's completely out of stamina. And please view this in a realistic situation, right? If I have 2 of my friends and I make them fight each other, and one punch or one kick is enough to make them out of breath, there is no relativity in that fight whatsoever, so they cannot be equal to each other. And to even further support this, we legit just see Cabba in Super Saiyan and Vegeta in Super Saiyan legit being a complete stomp. Vegeta is legit just taking damage from Cabba, punching him directly in the face, and nothing even happens. In fact, he's just smirking around and playing with this man Cabba. Bro, how is this dude equal to Vegeta? He's not. That's the straight up answer. And for those who say, oh, it could just be mastered Super Saiyan or a greater grade of Super Saiyan against Cabba. First of all, why would Vegeta even do that? Why would he be using the mastered version of Super Saiyan if Cabba is his student? Wouldn't it be more logical and more parsimonious to say that he's using a baseline to help teach Cabba better as a Super Saiyan? That just doesn't really make sense. And the answer is that it would be more parsimonious, and it would definitely be a more simpler and more, logical explanation than him using a freaking mastered version of the form. That just doesn't really make any sense, as I explained earlier. And also, for any of the people who are like, oh, but Cabba does kick Vegeta here and there, or oh, this, oh, that, yeah, all of those scenes where that actually does even happen, right, are before Vegeta starts smirking. Like, we've been knew this dude was playing around. If you understand the context of the fight chronologically, like in chronological order, rewatch it, you'll end up understanding it. So logically, with all those things established, then that would just mean that Vegeta was lying to Cabba, which also makes more logical sense considering that throughout that entire fight, he also threatened to destroy Planet Sadala in front of Cabba. Yeah, this dude was straight up capping the entire fight. No way should you be taking any Vegeta statement within this entire fight, literally. Genuinely, that's just, you know, not consistent within the narrative.
Super Saiyan 4 Gogeta. First off, the most notable feats in DBZ and GT are unironically Buhan and Z being able to warp space to the point that he destroys the universe, and Omega Shenron being able to destroy the universe with his negative energy. First for Buhan, it's said the universe's space was being warped, which would cause the walls between dimensions to break down, and the universe would then be crushed by alternate dimensions, destroying the universe. Clearly everybody agrees Buhan warped at least the living universe, and it would be destroyed via pure power, as confirmed in the Daisenshu, when it talks about how his feat is performed with raw power with the outside space skill. However, the argument that he also was warping these other dimensions, as some people have claimed, raises some concerns. If you consider Buhan's feat to be universal plus destruction in scope for destroying the standard living universe in Dragon Ball, then no amount of finite multipliers get him to low multiversal, since affecting multiple universes simultaneously requires an unknown amount of power greater than affecting just one. This is due to there being no way to calculate how much energy it takes to cross and affect two universes at once. It could be 2 times the power or require infinitely more power. It really can't be quantified. Thus, using multipliers to upscale GT from the Buhan feat never gets them to the level of the Battle of Gods macrocosm feat, which is objectively at least low multiversal for destroying multiple universal space-time continuums at once. If, however, you think Buhan's feat is low multiversal and assume these other dimensions mentioned are both being destroyed by him and universal in size and scope, then it's as impressive as the Battle of Gods Super Saiyan God Goku feat. And you can argue for GT scaling chains being large enough to vastly inflate them above the Buhan and Battle of Gods feats. So which interpretation is more reasonable, universe plus or low multiverse level power for Buhan? Well, first off, it never says he was warping these other dimensions too, just the universe. Nor did it say that they would also be destroyed, just that they would flood in and crush the universe when its dimensional walls were destroyed. So I feel like assuming all these dimensions would be destroyed as well is kind of a headcanon as opposed to fact. Furthermore, we don't know the size or nature of these other dimensions either, so we don't know if they are universes or just pocket dimensions, for example, which could change if they would even qualify for low multiversal scaling, even if they were destroyed, since blowing up a small pocket dimension is not equal to blowing up a massive universe. One other thing people sometimes try.
If you pay attention to what Ryu says, he actually concedes that Buhan is low multiversal at bare minimum, because he concedes to the fact that Buhan was going to destroy the wall. Now, the reason why the wall is so important is because the wall is strong enough to separate the universe and other dimensions from crashing into each other. So logically, right, if Buhan destroys a wall that is strong enough to separate multiple space-time continuums, this would mean that Buhan is low multiversal. Another issue in Ryu's argument is that we already know that there are dimensions in Dragon Ball that are universal in size and are clearly identified, and it would be a more simpler explanation to say that those dimensions are the ones that are going to crash into the universe rather than some random unknown dimension in the cosmology that we don't really know of. So it would be more reasonable to say that the dimensions in question are the ones that have already been identified within the verse, which kind of just, makes more sense. One of the examples is the hyperbolic time chamber, which is consistently identified as a dimension within the cosmology and is also infinite in size. And the fact that they were literally there, not even just like an hour or few hours earlier in the Buu saga, supports the consistency that I was talking about the whole dimensions thing. And also, even earlier than that, there's the extra dimensional space, which is the place where Goku and Pikkon were fighting in the Otherworld tournament, which is also a universal plus size dimension. So yes, there is more than one universal plus size dimension in the cosmology, which, kind of just supports what I'm saying and is also a more reasonable explanation rather than unknown dimensions, like I said earlier. And also, this feat would have to be stronger than Super Saiyan 3 Goku because, it's Buhan, greater ki output, greater, etc., right? And Super Saiyan 3 Goku already shook the entire macrocosm, right? So it would not really make much sense if Buhan is performing a feat that is weaker than Super Saiyan 3 Goku's feat, which, Buhan is far stronger and Buhan has less control of that ki.
Another common thing that needs to be addressed is Suguro space being destroyed by Goku. First of all, the game dimension is already crumbling, making it a questionable feat. Second off, Sugoroku space is of unknown size and destroying it is unquantifiable. For those trying to compare it to the subspace, that's inaccurate. Suguro space is simply a space located within the subspace. It does not share the same properties of a subspace, which is known to have no concept of space or time and transcend time itself. Said subspace still exists after Suguro space is destroyed, and they're not the same or equivalent, so don't try to claim it's outerversal like I've seen some people do. Also, of course, this video is not getting into potential higher dimensional otherworld, which just makes Battle of Gods Goku more of a monster if you apply that, and won't change the outcome. As far as speed goes, Cell already can fire Kamehameha so fast that it can leave Earth's atmosphere after Goku disappears with instant transmission, but before he rematerializes, meaning it moves while no time passes, making it faster than instantaneous. This is because instant transmission literally is instant from the time they disappear to the time they rematerialize.
Now, I don't necessarily disagree with early Dragon Ball characters having infinite speed, but Ryu's argument was just really bad because he doesn't really know how parallel narrative tools work. Like, they can show two events playing one and then like we see another shot in the other, but they're logically just the same exact one. And it would make more sense, realistically speaking, especially since the anime is an adaptation of the manga. And in the manga, if you actually pay attention to what's going on, Goku immediately teleports, and then he teleports back, then Cell looks away and then gets kicked. The only reason why the animation in the anime looks slower, I don't know, but it's still the same exact event in parallel time. What's actually happening here is that it's just a narrative placement. So basically, what I'm trying to say is that Cell erupting his Kamehameha and Goku reappearing happens at the exact same time.
It's just that in terms of chronologically, like scene-wise, like production-wise, they're like one comes after the other. But they're the same scene. They're like in the same like temporal placement in terms of like the inverse. This happens in movies. This happens in shows. In some examples.
Z movies scale to GT. They simply don't. Well, there are some characters that appear in GT who look like movie villains, such as Cooler. These are never stated or confirmed to be the movie's variations. Kind of like how you see Goku in Heroes, Fortnite, movies, manga, and anime. That doesn't automatically make them all the same version.
Okay, so for one, I don't necessarily disagree with that, but your argument just kind of presupposes a lot of things, which, is just going to be begging the question. But also, I'm just going to say Occam's Razor supports it being the actual Cooler rather than just being an identical cameo that looks like Cooler, which is just going to come with more assumptions. And also, right, Cooler literally appears on the Daizenshuu timeline, which makes him canon. Going back to your whole different Goku's point, the problem with the whole different Goku's point is that some of these different Gokus are literally established to be different Gokus or are just completely contradictory to even be the same Goku, which is not going to be the case for Cooler because there's no real logical contradiction that prevents Cooler from being a movie Cooler and, et cetera, et cetera.
The fact is, movies like Fusion Reborn and Cooler's Revenge just don't fit in the main DBZ timeline, which GT is a continuation of. We have issues like Goku being unable to use Super Saiyan when Cooler arrives, despite him being able to freely use it when he returns to Earth on the main anime.
In order for your argument to work, you would literally have to ignore the whole plot of the Cooler movie, which was to get revenge on Goku for killing Frieza, which would mean he would have to be a Super Saiyan at will to do so. The only reason he does this is either A, he's holding back, or B, for plot convenience to give Super Saiyan some hype. And they did this with Super Saiyan 2 Gohan as well, so I don't really necessarily see the issue here. Like, seriously, this is just another example of PIS, aka plot-induced stupidity, and yes, that's an actual thing. Please look that up.
Or how the Mecha Cooler events show that Dende is the current guardian of the Earth, which in the anime would mean that Piccolo had already fused with Kami. Goku and Gohan would be in the realm of Spirit Time training as Super Saiyans, Trunks would have come back and be present by then, and Cell would be roaming Earth, none of which fits with the Return of Cooler movie, where Gohan can't use Super Saiyan, Trunks never shows up, and Cell or the androids are never even seen or mentioned.
Since I already established that the first Cooler movie is canon, and that the second Cooler movie would just be a direct sequel, which is something that I think you and I can agree on, Ryu, then that logically means that the authors do not care about the contradictions within Cooler and accept the inconsistencies as part of their timeline. So logically, it's just not going to be really a true contradiction in logic. And obviously, right, you saying lack of mention, lack of appearance, all that kind of lacking stuff is also a straight up argument from silence fallacy and does not equate to the non-existence of something.
Or how in Fusion Reborn, somehow Goku and Vegeta are both dead, yet Goku recalls Buu, meaning this takes place after Buu's defeat, who is nowhere to be seen on Earth or another world. However, in the anime, Goku and Vegeta are still alive after they defeat Kid Buu, making Fusion Reborn incompatible with the main anime.
Even if we do take your whole movies are not canon thing as true, it's going to be completely meaningless because there is cross-verse scaling between the movies and the mainline anime where they consistently have Vegeta being stronger than Gogeta, which means that all of the Gogeta Janemba feats are going to be weaker than Vegeto's full power. Oh, and Ryu, don't try doing that whole Super Saiyan 4 Goku versus Vegeta debate thing again. You already know what happened last time. I guarantee you, bro. You're not ready for that shit for a round 2.
The final nail in the coffin of the argument for the movies being part of GT, beyond the inconsistencies, is the fact that in an interview with Akira Toriyama himself, he states that he considers the movies as different dimensions, really separating them from the main anime and manga. This makes sense given their many inconsistencies in the anime and manga.
You're taking the statement severely out of context. So first of all, he's just saying I take as his own subjective personal stance on the movies, and this is further supported by him literally just saying that he views himself as simply an audience member for the movies. So he's not trying to make his word objective, he's just trying to make his word as an audience member. So there's nothing really objective about that. And to even further support the consistency is the fact that some of these movies appear on the Daizenshuu timeline because, they allow it. And the Daizenshuu timeline is in context to only one universe, which means that the movies are accepted as part of the anime canon, or at least a few of these films.
Feats and scaling, Cabba simply has a much greater tier of power, at least comparable speed. Despite the fact that Super Saiyan 4 Gogeta is far more experienced, a universe plus level of power when stacked up against a low multi.
Now that I completely debunked Ryu's terrible power scaling, I'll just send you my skill for GT Goku to completely one-shot Cabba and basically everyone in Battle of Gods, etc., etc. So we know that the subspace lacks the concepts of space and time, which is something that Ryu agrees to, and the fact that it transcends the space and time, right? Something that is zero-dimensional cannot transcend space and time. So it's going to defeat the proposition that it is zero-dimensional. Therefore, it's going to affirm the proposition that it is outer-versal, so the subspace is outer-versal. Baby affected this place by shaking it and sending Goku to a different dimension. People will try to argue, oh, it just affected Goku and Kibito, not the space. That argument is so bad because in Dragon Ball, speed is the equivalent to strength. So the fact that this place even has an outer-versal range would now mean that it would also have outer-versal AP as well, which would just make Baby outer-versal, making him one-shot Ryu's entire Battle of God skill. Anyway, that's all I got for this video. See ya. The GT scale is coming very soon, and there will be some very special people that you guys may know within the community. And don't worry, I guarantee you, it will give you everything that you need to know. Just stay tuned for when that happens, and when it does, oh boy, the entire scaling perspective for Dragon Ball is going to change forever.